On today's episode of What's Going On with Shipping, what's going on with tariffs? I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. Been a while for a video here because old Doc Sal is withering away. I mean, seriously, I've lost like over 10 pounds with whatever this is I caught. Pneumonic plague, bubonic plague, I'm not sure. It's one of the plagues. Pretty sure I got a plague. But right now, okay, we can talk. I'm in not a bad spot. Hopefully the coughing subsides soon because the coughing has been a bit much. But I do want to do an update video on the tariffs. Last video I did, we went in some great detail talking about the tariffs, but we've had some refinement on the tariffs and also some issues come up regarding them. As you know, President Trump has put the tariffs on hold by a month for Mexico and Canada, but it still doesn't mean that these tariffs are not playing a big role. Let's remember, the reason for the tariffs, as stated in the fact sheet put out by the White House and in the executive order, has to do with border security. President Trump is advocating greater border security on the Canadian and Mexican side of the borders. Talking about illegal immigration, he's talking about drugs, he's talking about smuggling goods across the border. And so one of the things he's pushing is for better control of the border on the Canadian-Mexican side. Not saying whether or not it's true or not. I'm saying this is what President Trump is saying. And we have a couple of stories we're going to look at regarding this. Freightos has done a series of these, and they're particularly well done. John Paul Hampstead, making sense of Trump's new trade war. What does Trump want from Mexico and Canada? And again, very well articulated here by John Paul, talking about the issues on both trade protection across the border, immigration, and in particular the issue of drugs. Second story by Stuart Chris, tariffs could push trans-Pacific container rates to 2024 highs according to Freightos. Front-loading is keeping the box rates elevated. So one of the concerns that we saw, and I did a story on it in the last episode we did, where I talked about the fact that we saw some abnormally high freight rates and freight volumes in 2024. And I said a lot of that was due to front-loading cargo because of the potential for tariffs. John McCowan came out with his report and actually refuted that. He said, no, I don't think it's that. I tend to think it is. But let's take a look at some of the commodities coming across the borders and understand what kind of goods can we expect to see coming across. Now, the obvious biggest good we see coming across from Canada and Mexico is petroleum. That's the biggest one, number one. That's coming across in pipelines. It's coming across in trucks. But the other commodities are some manufactured and agricultural goods. So first off, we have imports from Mexico. And this is as of 2023 values, the top 10 values by category. So number one, vehicles. This is a key one. I think people are forgetting this, that if we start imposing a 25% tariff on Mexico, this is going to impact car manufacturing in the United States. While your car may be built in the United States, components of it are probably manufactured and assembled overseas. And that's going to be an issue. Second, electrical equipment coming across, again, very similar to what we see. Machinery, nuclear reactors. We're not getting nuclear reactors from Mexico. It's just a category that Customs has in there with boilers. Next, mineral fuels, oils, distillation products. Second, we see optical, photos, technical, medical apparatus. And number five. Number six, furniture. That's always a big one. Large bulk commodity items that come across. Seven, beverages, spirits, and vinegar. Obviously, for Mexico, we're talking about tequila. We're talking about beer. We're talking about everything I need for meals in the evening. And this is obviously going to impact me greatly. Number eight, we're talking about unspecified commodities. Number nine, edible fruits, nuts, all types of melons. This is where avocados are going to be a big issue. And if I hear one more thing about guacamole costing more, it's going to be a bit much. And then number 10, edible vegetables and certain other type of foods. So that's basically what we're getting from Mexico. From Canada, very much kind of along similar lines. Number one, mineral fuels, oils, distillate products. Second, vehicles other than railway. So we're talking about cars here. Machinery, equipment coming across, very specific is what we saw last time over with Mexico. Unspecified commodities, plastics. Six, we're talking about pearls, precious stones, metals, coins. So really minerals coming across. 7 wood and articles of wood, so obviously forestry items coming across. And remember, this is by value, not by tonnage. So in terms of tonnage, some of these are going to be a lot more tonnage than others coming across based on the value. Then you get aluminum, electrical equipment, and then iron and steel for industrial use. And then finally, we got China with that 10% tariff going on, and we see a variety of goods coming across there. Electrical equipment, machinery, toys, games, furniture, plastics, vehicles, digital photo, technical equipment, iron, steel, some unspecified commodities, and then footwear coming across. So these are products that we're importing across into the United States, and all of those are going to be impacted by the tariffs. And so you can expect to see those costs increase. And what you can expect to see with the delay right now, especially coming from Canada and Mexico, is a lot of those goods are going to be front loaded as much as you can. If I know I've got a month until that tariff hits in and I'm an auto manufacturer, I'm going to try to stockpile my warehouse with every piece of manufacturing I need to build cars so that I can get in front of that tariff right now. And so expect to see some crazy orders coming in and some numbers across the board. Everybody is kind of expecting this to be a crazy season there. All right, let's go back to some of these Freightway stories, because there was a couple other things they mentioned in here which I found to be particularly interesting. So No Mahoney had tariff loom over freight markets may shift supply chains, SONAR experts say. Now, I alluded to this in the previous video. Trump duties could pull more manufacturing away from China to Vietnam and other countries. That may pull it away from China, but it doesn't mean it's not Chinese companies. We're seeing China diversify some of their manufacturing, and they're going into places like Cambodia, setting up factories, bringing their workers with them, and setting up shop there, and being able to export via Cambodia. We're also seeing import of goods into other countries, and this is a problem that the tariff is going to set up, where goods are going to be moving from country to country coming into the United States, trying to avoid the tariff. So the last story I want to talk about is the one regarding de minimis shipments. This is Eric Kulsich's story. White House pauses de minimis ban on Chinese e-commerce. Administration that says it needs time to implement enforcement mechanisms. All right, so the United States announced that de minimis shipments, these are shipments under $800, were going to fall under the tariffs. Now, prior to this, they didn't. They were outside the bounds of tariffs. Now, $800 shipments were geared toward e-commerce. So when you order something on Temu, on Amazon, Alibaba, all these online sites, the idea was these shipments would be outside tariffs. Now, understand how this works. When you order something from Amazon, you're going to order, your brand new phone or something, and it's under $800. You are not falling under the tariff system that currently exists. What the company doesn't just ship you that package individually, they package it together in a container, what's called a less than container load. So they, jam all that together into one container, but it's not one shipment. It is 100 shipments less than 800. So it doesn't fall under the tariff. It's a really novel way to get out of issuing the tariff. Now, when you look at CBP, Custom and Border Protection's discussion on this, so this is the CBP statement that was put out. Customs and Border Patrol proposes new rules to strengthen enforcements and limit duty exemption for low-value shipments. This is as of January 17th, 2025. They announced a notice of proposed rulemaking, meaning they haven't done the rule yet, but they're proposing it, aimed at tightening the de minimis duty exemption for certain low-value shipments entering the U.S. The proposed changes would make certain products ineligible for the exemption, which currently allows goods valued at $800 or less to enter the country without paying duties or certain taxes, a practice unfair to American businesses. That means you can buy a product similar to what's produced in the United States, import it into the United States, and not pay taxes on it. And this is why it is seen as a big advantage. Over the last 10 years, the number of shipments entering the United States claiming the de minimis administrative exemption increased from more than 600%, from approximately 139 million a year in fiscal year 2015 to over 1 billion a year by fiscal year 2023. During fiscal year 2024, de minimis shipments rose again to over 1.36 billion. This exponential increase has created challenges for CBP's effective enforcement of U.S. trade laws, health and safety requirements, intellectual property rights, and consumer protection rules. That number is astronomical, and that number went up largely because of COVID, because of the online buying power of people being at home in 2020 to 2022. The amount of de minimis shipments, went up astronomically, and now it's through the roof. And when President Trump announced we're going to start enforcing de minimis under tariff, CBP couldn't process it. It was like, wow, it's too much. We can't process it right now. So you had stories out there about stopping, the post office wouldn't receive shipments from China anymore. Now they're receiving them. It's just because you literally could not turn off the flow of goods that was coming in at that volume. And so this is going to take time to gear up so that the Customs and Border Protection can properly screen the de minimis shipments that are coming in. And one of the things that is hoped here is that, number one, we're going to catch some illegal shipments coming in of potentially drugs and shipments that should not be coming in via these shipments. But second, perhaps shift some buying back to American domestic manufacturers and away from foreign manufacturers. So there's a lot going on with regards to the tariff right now. Understand too, President Trump is a real estate guy. Some people are trying to sit there and say, I'm like apologizing for Trump. I'm not trying to apologize for Trump, but I understand the background of whoever the president is. And Trump's background is a real estate guy. He's always going to make the big play first. That's what real estate people do. And so his big play here is to make a large play at tariffs and try to negotiate what he wants. And that seems to be exactly what he has done here, especially with both Canada and Mexico at this time, and probably going to do the same thing with China. And we can expect to see similar tariffs coming out. We've already seen reports that President Trump will be doing tariffs with the EU and other countries out there. This is a power that he has through the executive orders that he has, and he is using them. And until Congress or the courts check him on this, we can expect to see this happening. This means that trade is going to be an avenue by which President Trump uses it for political and economic leverage. It's just the way it is. I don't know what more to tell you about it. That's what we're seeing here. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? Send as much Mucinex as you can. I mean, I'm not kidding. I've gone through more of that stuff than you can possibly imagine. But if you don't want to send me Mucinex directly, well, there's a couple other things you can do. Number one, you can give the channel a big thumbs up. You can share it across social media. You can subscribe and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos when they come out. You can hit the super thanks button down below where you can contribute directly to the page, or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly, yearly subscriber. Until our next episode, or until I lose another 10 pounds and just literally wither away, this is Sal signing off.